Good evening, my ghouls and goblins. Ever since John McTiernan's Predator crash-landed onto our screens back in 1987, like a cosmic Amazon delivery gone horribly wrong, audiences have watched brave mortals get skinned, shredded, and utterly humiliated by the galaxy's most overqualified trophy hunter. And yet, through all the blood, guts, and spinal column redecorating, we always knew there'd be another hunt. Because if there's one thing the Predator loves more than thermal vision, it's a sequel, folks. Believe me.
But sharpen your blades and polish those skulls, because Dan Trachtenberg's Predator Badlands promises a hunt unlike any we've seen before. We may not have time to bleed. Trust me, I've checked the schedule. But we definitely have time to witness the Predator return to the big screen after 7 long years of waiting in the cinematic shadows. So, in honor of Predator Badlands, your beloved Crypt of Knights is ranking the entire Predator franchise from worst to best. Grab your cloaking devices, hold onto your mandibles, and let's dive into this monstrous list, my fright fans.
Number 9. Alien vs. Predator. Requiem, 2007.
Requiem, directed by Greg and Colin Strauss, is set in a small Colorado town that's under siege by an alien-predator hybrid, a Predalien, who was born at the end of the previous AVP film. In the Predalien's possession are a batch of xenomorph eggs, which of course hatch and spread chaos. A predator named Wolf is sent to Earth to eradicate the Predalien and the xenomorphs, while a group of largely expendable humans, portrayed by Stephen Pasquale, Johnny Lewis, Kristen Hager, David Paetkow, Ariel Gade, Reiko Aylesworth and John Ortiz, try to escape town before being killed, either by the aliens or the nuclear strike headed for their homes. There's a simple narrative at play and an attempt to bring Western genre elements to the franchise. For fans of the AVP mythos, Requiem is the first film to introduce Ms. Yutani, Francoise Yip, at this point in the timeline, which is a cool moment even though it set up a sequel that never happened. But outside of those limited features, the film that was released is presented with such limited attention to lighting that it's nearly impossible to see any of the action beats or bloodshed in the movie. There's something to it, but we need a fan edit that can brighten up the film to truly see what that something is.
Number 8. AVP. Alien vs. Predator, 2004.
After being teased in 1990's Predator 2 and spawning an entire line of comic books and video games, the xenomorphs and the Yautjas finally came to blows on screen in Paul W.S. Anderson's AVP. The film serves as a sequel to the 2 Predator films at the time and a prequel to the then 4 Alien movies. The showdown between the 2 species is set in motion by a group of explorers led by Lex Woods, Sanna Lathan, who are sent by Charles Weiland, Lance Henriksen, to explore a pyramid buried in the ice near Antarctica. In the pyramid, the team awakens an alien queen which sends a trio of predators to Earth to destroy the pyramid and queen before her offspring can escape and overwhelm the world, which is one of their hunting grounds. There's some goofy, inherently racist, Eric von Daniken-inspired backstory involving predators teaching the Aztecs how to build pyramids in exchange for several humans subjecting themselves to xenomorph embryos so that the predators can put on hunting games. It all serves to get to what audiences came to see, which Anderson does a decent job with and works to make fit what has come before. AVP and its aforementioned sequel, Requiem, were canon for a time, until Ridley Scott rewrote the history of the aliens with the superior and more thought-provoking Prometheus, 2012. Nevertheless, Anderson puts care into making sure the film fits within the timeline of the movies that existed upon its release. AVP mostly delivers on what it sets out to do in providing Alien vs. Predator action with some great special effects and puppeteering from special effects company ADI. Really, it's the effects work that make the movie, and arguably it's a better Predator movie than Alien movie in terms of tone and playing towards Anderson's action strengths, which dialogue is not one of. Sanna Lathan's Lex, serving in the role of Ripley-esque survivor, felt like a major win for black audiences at the time of release, and canon or not, she remains a beloved character in the franchise. AVP is far from perfect, and it's thematically empty, but it's a pretty fun junk food movie.
Number 7. Prey. 2022.
Dan Trachtenberg changed the game with his first foray into the Predator franchise. Rather than testing the Yautja against increasingly modern warfare, Trachtenberg and screenwriter Patrick Eison delivered a prequel to the franchise that proved to be both the shot in the arm the franchise needed, as well as culturally and historically relevant. Prey, despite being released as a Hulu original rather than a theatrical feature, made the Predator franchise feel fresh and exciting again. The film, set in the northern Great Plains in 1719, follows Naru, Amber Midthunder, a young Comanche woman who dreams of being a hunter like her brother, Tabe, Dakota Beavers, instead of a healer as her tribe ordains for women. Rebelling against tradition and her elders, Naru goes hunting and sees something streak across the sky. Believing it to be a thunderbird and a sign that she's ready to become a hunter, she follows its path. What she discovers is a Yautja, which she dubs Mupitsi, who not only challenges her future as a hunter but the future of her entire tribe. It is such a rarity for a Hollywood genre film, especially one that is part of a major franchise, to take the time and care to embed not only an audience, but the cast and crew within a culture, and to do it authentically. Producer Jane Myers, a member of the Comanche Nation and the Blackfeet Nation, was integral to the film's success, and she provided relevant materials, details for props, and a significant contribution to the film's script by being adamant that horses were included in the film, citing the historical horse culture of the Comanches. While the film was shot in English, the film was later dubbed in Comanche by the entire cast, making Prey the first film to have a Comanche language dub. Midthunder successfully creates a new type of action hero for the franchise. Naru is equal parts warrior and healer, and it is both her skills in plant recognition and herbal remedies, as well as her prowess with a throwing axe, that immediately made her a fan favorite of the franchise that had launched with brawny men. And the Predator himself, Mupitsi, Dane DeLiegro, or the feral predator as he's referred to in marketing, makes the Yautja both mysterious and frightening again, showcasing a new kind of skill set with primitive Yautja weaponry, and physical features that distinguish him from the Yautja that have come before. DeLiegro exhibits freer movement in the suit than any of the previous Predator actors have before, making for some truly stellar fight choreography. And as if that wasn't enough, Trachtenberg and Eison remember the past by including the origin of the flintlock pistol from Predator 2, making Tabe a previous incarnation of Predator's American Indian character, Billy Soul, which adds context and heightens emotions surrounding his last stand in that initial film. But they also pave the way for the future by establishing just how different predators can vary in terms of their physical traits and culture, which is followed up in Predator Badlands. And the stage is set for Naru's return, which would make her one of the only human characters in the franchise to lead more than one movie. The hunt continues.
Number 6. Predator, Killer of Killers, 2025.
2025 granted us not one but two Predator films this year. Director and current Yautja whisperer Dan Trachtenberg delivered the first, and hopefully not last, animated Predator film with Predator, Killer of Killers. The film takes an anthology approach by introducing 3 different warriors' encounters with a Yautja across 3 different time periods. The first segment, The Shield, is set in Scandinavia in 841 and sees the Viking warrior Ursa Lindsay Levanchi trying to teach her young son the importance of honor through revenge when she and her tribe are ambushed by a massive Yautja, and the depth of Ursa's loss and thirst for vengeance only grows. The second segment, The Sword, is set in Japan in 1609, is focused on Kenji and Kiyoshi, Louis Ozawa, 2 sons of a samurai warrior who were pit against each other as children, and 20 years later are forced to confront the sins of the past, while the sins of another world are visited upon them, and both are challenged to the deadliest duel they've faced. The third segment, The Bullet, is set in 1942 and centers on a young mechanic, John J. Torres, Rick Gonzalez, who is drafted into World War II as a fighter pilot who gets more than he bargained for when faced with a Yautja fighter pilot whose technology far exceeds that of the US Navy. Torres is forced to outsmart alien tech, and even that doesn't guarantee his safety. All 3 characters come together in the final segment, The battle, which sees Ursa, Kenji, and Torres thawed from cryosleep and forced into a gladiator battle against a giant alien species, overseen by the Yautja chieftain, the Grendel King. Killer of Killers makes dazzling use of animation, using the medium not as a means to cut cost on a film that could have been live action, but because animation was the only suitable format through which these stories could be told. The film is of such quality that it easily could have been a worthy theatrical release. From voice acting, the detail, to period costumes and architecture, sound effects and score, Killer of Killers isn't a spin-off or a soft launch for an animated series, but a feature film that is as essential to the franchise as any of the live-action entries. Plus, the film contains some fun Easter eggs, like introducing Torres' commanding officer Vandy, who is voiced by Michael Biehn. This makes Biehn and his friend, the late and beloved actor Bill Paxton, the only actors to have fought a Terminator, Alien, and Predator. Additionally, the film's ending raises the stakes for the future of the franchise, with the cryopods containing the sleeping bodies of Naru from Prey, Harrigan from Predator 2, and the big man himself, Dutch, from the movie that started it all, with Trachtenberg having already conceived of big plans for the Predator franchise and discussed these roles with their respective actors. It's only a matter of time before we see where all of this is leading.
Number 5. Predator 2, 1990.
Welcome to the concrete jungle. Stephen Hopkins's Predator 2 trades the jungles of Central America for the streets of Los Angeles. Set a decade after the events of the first film, the sequel sees Danny Glover, 2 Lethal Weapons in and a certified action star, play Mike Harrigan, a police detective with a fear of heights and a problem taking orders. His investigation into the brutal killings between rival Colombian and Jamaican gangs puts him on the trail of a new type of killer that appears to be supernatural. Aided by his longtime partner, Detective Archuleta, Ruben Blades, and partnered with new transfer Detective Lambert, Bill Paxton, Harrigan is made part of a DEA task force by Special Agent Keyes, Gary Busey, and led on an increasingly bloody chase through the streets of LA to find that what he's dealing with isn't supernatural, but extraterrestrial. Keyes reveals that he isn't DEA, but an agent dispatched to capture the Predator, which naturally is easier said than done. Predator 2 is a film that is both blessed and cursed with excess. The whole endeavor, not just the gang war, feels fueled by drugs. Everyone is immensely, at times comically, sweaty. The dialogue is often profane without reason, and the Colombians and Jamaicans are written and portrayed with such extreme, ethnic stereotypes that not even "it was the 90s" works as an excuse. And then there's Busey, who is on an entirely different level with his insights into the film, as seen on the special features of the physical media releases. His portrayal is made even more fascinating to watch with the knowledge that Keyes was originally written to be the original franchise hero, Dutch, but Schwarzenegger declined to return, opting to do Kindergarten Cop and Total Recall instead, both of which only enhanced his superstardom. When Predator 2 hits a lull, it's a real come-down that is almost impossible to stay awake through. But when it hits, especially in the third act where Harrigan confronts the Predator on its ship, meets the Yautja elders, and the film introduces the lore for Alien vs. Predator, along with realization that the Predators have been coming to Earth for centuries, all come into focus. It's some of the best Predator stuff ever put on screen. There's a lot of sweat and blood to get there, but when we do, it's out of this world.
Number 4. The Predator, 2018.
All right, let's talk about The Predator, and listen. I know this movie gets dragged through the mud like it dented somebody's Honda Civic in the parking lot, but for us here at the channel, this one sits comfortably at number 4, and I'll tell you why. When Shane Black, Mr. Quip Machine, action script legend, OG cast member, announced he was stepping back into the jungle after Iron Man 3 and The Nice Guys, expectations weren't just high, they were stratospheric. This felt like destiny, bro. The vibe was perfect. The cast? Stacked. Boyd Holbrook, Trevante Rhodes, Sterling K. Brown, Keegan-Michael Key, Thomas Jane, Olivia Munn, Jacob Tremblay, pure heat. Everything pointed to Shane Black cooking up the biggest, boldest, funniest Predator flick ever. And yeah, we all know the production had its messes. Studio edits, behind-the-scenes drama, controversy that shouldn't have happened. None of that is great. and it definitely threw the movie off its intended path. Pero aquí está la cosa, man. There's still a very good movie in there, and a lot of people miss it because they're too busy dunking on the chaos. The core idea? Genuinely cool. A squad of soldiers with PTSD teaming up with a biologist to unravel why this predator has human DNA? A group of Yautja traveling the galaxy trying to upgrade themselves? That's bold sci-fi territory, and I respected the swing. And then we get to Rory. And this is where the movie hits home for me. I know some critics roll their eyes at the idea of a kid on the spectrum being the key to understanding alien tech, but as a parent with a child on the spectrum, I saw something beautiful there. Rory isn't treated like a burden or a background character. He's the heart of the movie, the hero, the one with the abilities no one else has. He's not broken. He's brilliant. And honestly, seeing that on a big screen meant something. Representation sometimes comes in weird, imperfect packages, but the intention, this idea that neurodivergence isn't a limitation but a different kind of strength, that resonated. From there, we're off to the races. Quinn, the squad, and Brackett go full chaos mode trying to protect Rory, and the movie hits this wild blend of action, comedy, sci-fi, and Shane Black energy. Are there editing issues? Sure. Some scenes vanish, some characters disappear like they got blipped by Thanos, but the movie moves. It's fun. It's violent in that goofy, comic booky way. It's Shane Black doing Predator the way only Shane Black can. And yes, the sequel set up with the Predator Iron Man armor is ambitious, maybe too ambitious. It was clearly leading somewhere awesome. Dutch cameo, Ripley cameo, Newt cameo. But we never got to see it bloom. That's Hollywood for you. Here's the thing. The Predator isn't the disaster people call it. It's a messy movie with a huge heart, some killer ideas, and a surprisingly emotional core about family, trauma, and embracing the things that make us different. There's flavor here. There's meat. And for us, for this channel, it hits enough highs that it absolutely earns that number 4 spot. Sometimes a movie doesn't have to be perfect to hit you right where you live. And this one, that connection with Rory, did exactly that.
Number 3. Predators, 2010.
Man, it took forever, like biblical plague levels of waiting, before we finally got a third Predator movie. And no, I'm not counting the AVP stuff. Those are their own beautiful disasters. By the time Predators dropped, the hype for the franchise had cooled harder than a leftover taco in the fridge. But here's the crazy part. Out of every movie in this saga worth revisiting, the Robert Rodriguez-produced, Nimrod Antal-directed Predators might be the sneakiest, deadliest surprise of them all. Adrian Brody, yes, that Adrian Brody, steps in as Royce, a mercenary with the kind of stare that tells you this man has lived, suffered, and bench-pressed trauma for breakfast. If you doubt him as an action star, just look him in the eyes. Brody leads a killer ensemble: Topher Grace, Alice Braga, Walton Goggins, Mahershala Ali, Danny Trejo, Louis Ozawa Chang-Chien, Oleg Taktarov, basically a world tour of tough guys and moral disasters. Our lovely group of psychos wakes up on a freaking game-preserve planet, and guess what? They're the game. 4 Yautja are hunting them, each with new weapons, traps, and the absolute chaos that are the hellhounds. Predator dogs that look like they crawled out of a nightmare drawn by a bored middle schooler who really likes spikes. People drop fast, and the survivors eventually meet Noland, Lawrence Fishburne, an Army Air Cavalry vet who's been on the planet for multiple hunting cycles and is now about 1 coconut short of full Colonel Kurtz. And of course, porque es el universo de Predator, nobody's plan survives more than 5 minutes. So the entire third act becomes this wild, double-crossing, blood-soaked roller coaster that even throws in a little wink to the original film. When Predators first came out, people were like, hey, it's fine. But over time, it built a cult following. Folks started giving it credit for the tight action, the practical effects, and the performances. Sure, the supporting characters are drawn with a crayon and not a pencil, but this thing manages a ton of world building with a $40 million budget. Plus, it was the first Predator movie set off Earth, something Badlands would later run with full speed. And here's the kicker. Brody has said he'd love to come back to the franchise. And honestly, fans would welcome him back like a long-lost cousin showing up to Carne Asada night. And thanks to where the franchise goes next, it might not be as impossible as it sounds.
Number 2. Predator, Badlands, 2025.
And speaking of underdogs, yeah, you heard that right. The newest Predator film pulls off something we all assumed was impossible. It actually makes the Predator the hero, the guy we root for. Dan Trachtenberg, on his third round in this universe, proves he has zero interest in repeating himself. Visually, tonally, narratively, Predator Badlands swings just as hard away from franchise norms as Prey and Killers of Killers did. Written by Patrick Asen and Trachtenberg, Badlands centers on Dek, Demetrius Schuster-Kolomatangi, a Yautja runt, basically the cosmic equivalent of the kid who gets picked last in gym class. His father gives him one final, brutal ultimatum. Prove you're worthy of the clan, or die so the gene pool doesn't get any weaker. Real healthy family dynamics. Still carrying the weight of a recent tragedy, Dek decides he's going to do the most impossible thing imaginable. Hunt down a monster called the Kalisk on the planet Jenna, the place the galaxy literally calls Death Planet. After a crash wrecks his gear and drops him into a wildlife preserve designed by Satan, Dek winds up teaming up with Thea, Elle Fanning, a Wayland Yutani synth missing the entire lower half of her body. And somehow, this partnership works. Badlands never hits the brakes. It's one rip-roaring, high-octane set piece after another. But the impressive part is that none of that spectacle gets in the way of character growth. Trachtenberg isn't just blowing stuff up, he's dismantling that old-school army of one macho myth the original film rode in on. Things we used to label as weaknesses, emotional scars, physical limitations, empathy, end up being strengths. This film is like two films in one. In the beginning, it is a very mysterious old-school sci-fi film, with some Avatar and old Star Trek vibes. But then, in the second half, you get this campy A-Team television action adventure that somehow gets you on the edge of your seat. And visually, the guy builds a world that feels pulled from pulp sci-fi covers, for novels from Robert E. Howard, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and full-on Frank Frazetta battle paintings. It's wild, dense, and genuinely original. But here's where Badlands really flexes. Trachtenberg and Asen expand Yautja lore without turning it into homework. They canonize the species' name, explore their codes and culture, even build a language. And yes, they thread the Predator and Alien universes together in a way that feels organic, not like a cheap crossover coupon stapled to the end credits. What's especially impressive is that this is the first Predator movie without a single human character, and it still works. Better than it has any right to. Badlands proves you can center a Predator story on the Predator, on its identity, its struggle, its evolution, and the franchise not only survives, it grows.
Number 1. Predator, 1987.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Ah yes, my gruesome gladiators of the silver scream, one of the greatest lines in horror action history, delivered by the Austrian oak himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. John McTiernan's Predator has become such a pop culture juggernaut, quoted, copied, worshipped, that it's easy to forget what a razor-sharp, bone-crunching masterpiece it really is beneath all the memes and macho one-liners. And even easier, my creeps, to forget that Predator was almost a totally different beast, a monstrosity stitched together in the Hollywood laboratory before it finally mutated into the icon we adore. You see, when Jim and John Thomas first summoned this creature from the void, it was called Hunter, a cosmic jamboree of alien species stalking other aliens like some intergalactic safari gone horribly wrong. That original idea got sent to the chopper, trimmed and stitched, but it was still far from its final fearsome form. And then, oh my bony babies, Jean-Claude Van Damme was cast as the Predator. Yes, the muscles from Brussels himself, stuffed inside a rubbery red nightmare suit that looked like a chihuahua mated with an ant. Big yellow bug eyes, pointy legs, truly terrifying, but not exactly for the right reasons. Van Damme hated it. Too hot, too sweaty, too much face covering for a man who wants you to see his beautiful martial arts cheekbones. He quit or was politely removed, You know how Hollywood works. Enter Kevin Peter Hall, 7-foot angel of death, wearing a brand new creature design crafted by the legendary Stan Winston, a wizard who could build a monster out of duct tape, nightmares, and a can of Krylon. And with that, an icon was born, my Fright fans. A mandible-clicking, spine-collecting superstar. Switching the script from aliens hunting aliens to one alien hunting a squad of sweaty, muscle-inflated commandos. Oh, that's when the stakes got juicy. Arnold Schwarzenegger, our beloved Dutch, leads the rescue team into the Central American jungle, joined by Dylan, Carl Weathers, Cooper, Jesse Ventura, Mac, Bill Duke, Ramirez, Richard Chavez, Billy, Sonny Landham, and Hawkins, Shane Black. Before The Expendables was even a cursed twinkle in Hollywood's eye, this was the action hero Avengers assembling. The camaraderie, the banter, the biceps. You feel the history between them, which makes every death hit harder and makes the Predator seem even more unstoppable. McTiernan is a magician of suspense. He builds the monster's mystique long before we ever see it. Cloaking tech, heat vision, that bone-chilling clicking. Ooh, it's delicious. A hunter so lethal it wipes out these testosterone titans like they're on a jungle clearance rack. And then, that moment, the unmasking. Dutch staring in awe and disgust. The audience trying to process the beautiful, hideous Yautja face. Those mandibles, that roar, the "your mum's not ready for this" ugliness. Decades later, Stan Winston's creation still looks real, still looks alive, still looks like it crawled out of some forbidden evolutionary timeline. At its marrow-deep core, Predator is a story about biology, about peeling away the weapons, the bravado, the gadgets, and reducing a man to pure survival instinct. Covered in mud, stripped of everything but grit and cunning, Dutch becomes something primal, an apex underdog. Mr. Universe versus Mr. Unholy Space Hunter, a final showdown carved into cinema history. And that, my creeps and creatures, is why Predator remains one of the most glorious films ever kept in the Crypt of Knights vault, and why it remains the #1 in our list. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please keep watching the Crypt of Knights.